benefit to you, not just, you know, sitting up here talking all the time. Okay, we both work for Pepperdine University. This is Novita Rogers. I'm Terry Utter. We're from Malibu, as you saw some of the pictures up there. Very lovely campus, although this is really pretty too. I'm here from Chicago. We have a couple handouts. I don't know if you got them. One of them is keyboard shortcuts, which we'll go over with pretty soon. And the other one is just a lot of web links to many of the topics that we're covering today, just in case you want some more information. Especially those of you who want to get into more reg hacks. We're just going to do one today because those are kind of scary. And we don't want to go, we'll get more if we don't have to go through rocks. Okay, we're going to start with why should you go even to Windows XP? I don't know how many of you how many of you have Windows XP? Okay, most of you. If you don't, why do you want to go to it? A couple of reasons. It's more stable. I don't know if you've noticed, a lot fewer crashes and reboots, especially if you harken back to the days of Windows 98. It recognizes a lot more of your hardware. When you put your devices, it automatically recognizes a lot more. Not all of them, but far more than the other ones used to. There's a lot more security, easier for your network admins behind the scenes for like remote assistance or remote desktop. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's a CD burning that's built into it. You don't even need special software, which you used to. Docking, if you've ever had docking laptops experience with, like, especially Windows 98, that was a nightmare. And with XP, wow, it's so much better. It's usually pretty much pop it in and you're on. And you can even, it allows you to hot dock. We've had a little bit of problems with that. You can take it out, but putting it in when it's hot, I don't know, that doesn't always work so well. I think it's better to have your computer off, but it's certainly much better. System Restore, I don't know how many of you ever used that. That's a wonderful feature. If you have all of a sudden got a virus on your machine, if you've all of a sudden gotten spyware you can't get rid of, if you put something on, the whole thing is just a disaster. You go to System Restore, you can go back to a time when your computer was restored and working. You set it to come back on, and we found that it works really well. It doesn't affect your files. We did it on one guy that actually we put Service Pack 2 on his computer, found out that he could no longer use our network drive. So we had to go back and remove Service Pack 2. We just went back to the restore point before Service Pack 2. Worked great. So I would highly recommend, if you don't have System Restore on, to turn it on. And we'll show you how to do that in just a little bit. It has a nice firewall built in that you can adjust. Pop-up blocker, again, that you can adjust. Improved internet security. It has an improved wireless network wizard like you have at home. You've got a little system set up. We had to change. We should probably show them do this pop-up blocker now. We had issues with the pop-up blocker, the automatic one, and we had to make changes to ours. And because we have webmail, I don't know how many of you use Outlook Exchange servers and Outlook. We have webmail, and it recognized when we would reply to an email, it thought it was a pop-up. So we had to go in and say, no, it's really not a pop-up. Just make one change, and it works really well. Before you put on Windows XP, you can't just throw it on any machine. You've got to have, the recommendations to me are always really low. It says, 256 megabytes of RAM. Wow, we have found, unless you've got 512, they really crawl. They'll run, but we really encourage you to have 512 megabytes of RAM, and I'll show you how to check on that in a little bit. And a Pentium 3 500 chip. I wouldn't put it on a Pentium 1 or a Pentium 2. Again, it's just going to crawl. So let's go now to some fun stuff, keyboard shortcuts. On your, most of your keyboards, there is a Windows key. Lower left-hand corner there, you can see that one. That is a lot of fun. Let's go back on the desktop. Just so you can see the real purchase of it. Okay. If you have a bunch of stuff open, and all of a sudden you go, oh, rats, I've got 12 programs open, I need to go on the desktop. All you have to do is hit Windows D, and you go right to the desktop. That's really handy when you realize, oh, I've got to go get that file, it's right there, how do I remember how to get to the desktop, or I want to go, various things. Oh, this is something we're going to disable later. This is a balloon pop-up. which we're going to show you a little bit later in Group Policy Editor how to get rid of if you don't like these little things popping up and talking to you, which I don't, but some people do. If you have a whole bunch of windows open, just open them up. Okay, and again, if you hit Windows M, it minimizes everything. Similar to the look you're going to get in the desktop, everything's actually minimized. Then you can do Shift Windows M, and it brings them all back up. So quickly, like your boss walks by, you can minimize everything, you can't see what you're working on, and then you remember where you were. So that's a very handy dandy trick. That's one of our handouts is, in fact, the Windows shortcuts, which we thought you may want to put next to your computer. Okay, another really good one is...
And if you guys don't have handouts, I know we ran out of them, email us. I have my cards up here, so you can email us. We'll send them to you. We'll probably make them available on the CALI website, too, so you guys can have them.
Right? Okay, a really fun one, I think, for me, is a lot of people call me and say, oh, I've got a problem, and I've got a bunch of things open, and I have a bunch of places on my computer I don't want someone to go. If you hit Windows L, it locks your computer. So rather than having to do Control-Alt-Delete, lock computer, you hit just one keystroke, the Windows L, and it's locked. And I think that's really handy when you're running back and forth and you don't want to leave your computer open. That's a really nice feature. Okay. Windows E launches Internet Explorer. I don't know, not Explorer. I don't know how many of you use this, but to me it's really handy if I have put a USB drive in or a CD drive, or I have network drives I want to access really quickly. If you just hit Windows E, you can see all your program files right there, kind of the fingertip thing. That's a handy little dandy trick. Otherwise, you'd have to go to the Start menu, right-click it. So this is kind of a shortcut for that. Windows F1. Okay, search menu. So if you're trying to go to Help, Help is a little more complicated now than it used to be, I find. This pops it right up for you, and you want to, like, am I looking for folders? Am I looking for, what searches? I want to search for files and folders. Okay. This is another way to do your search. I don't know how many of you are familiar with PST files. Okay, PST files are what you save if you have Microsoft Outlook and you have personal folders and you're putting all of your Outlook in there. It stores it on your hard drive. And if your hard drive crashes, your personal email goes away. And this is a really good way to find where it is so you can back it up. So if it didn't happen to your computer, you can get this stuff back. Because I don't know about you, but we have quotas on our email, where our email can only get so big on the server, and then we have to move it off. And I think most people have that problem. They don't want to really delete all the email, so it's a backup thing. So if you were going to look and say, well, where the heck are my PST files? I don't have any idea. You can put there star.pst. Star is a wildcard. You look for anything that's a .pst. .pst would be like .doc for Microsoft Word docs, .ppt for PowerPoint. So it's an extension. Anything that's a PST, so if you go ahead, you have someone? Okay, click search. It'll show you where they are. In a minute. Okay, one thing to notice is sometimes sometimes it pops up and you go, well, okay, this is telling me nothing. I don't know really where any of that stuff is. But if you pull over there, you can see, oh, okay, here is exactly what folder my PST is in. So now I want to copy it onto my flash drive, onto my CD, whatever. We'll talk about some of that backing up later. But that way you know where it is. And for a lot of people, it's really a critical thing when your hard drive crashes not to be able to get those personal folders back. But see, It works for anything. If you have a document or a certain thing, you can. The search is great. You can look for a date, a specific date. You can look for a string of text. You think, oh, I saved this, and I don't remember where I saved it, but I remember I said Professor Scrimshaw in there somewhere, and you can look for that way. Help is really, it's got a lot of different nice features. Okay, how many of you ever use the run command? Start run? Good. Windows R will give you the run command. Now, what do you do with this? There's lots you can do with the run command. If you want to just launch, for example, window, like a word, you can type in WinWord, and it launches Microsoft Word. Just a little quick way to do that. You can type Excel, you can type Notepad, launches all of those. If you have something like is in a really, really weird spot, and it's something that you maybe access frequently, but you can think, what if it's not in my documents? I keep it in this really weird place, and my boss wants me to keep it there. I don't like keeping it there, but I have to access it a lot. If you find where it is, we had something in there we don't know. Okay, so let's say this is something you use a lot, and you're saying, well, shoot, I don't want to have to go searching all the time and never remember where it is. If you copy-paste right up there in the title bar, and copy-paste it into your run command, and then like close this, and you hit OK, and it'll just pop it there instantly for you. And the nice thing is the run command will remember stuff for a little while. I don't know how many. There's probably a half of that. How many different things it'll remember. If you pull down C's, things that you've accessed, it'll kind of remember. Think, oh, I don't remember exactly what that is. Let me type in part of it. It goes, oh yeah, you had something here, and you'll find it for you. So that's a handy little feature. Okay, another handy feature is if you're going to run command and you do the Windows R, you type CMD. Okay, it brings up the DOS window, and probably a lot of you don't use this. People who did like long ago Windows did. There's a few things there. They're kind of handy.
This is also known as the command prompt. So when you're setting up stuff, you might hear command prompt. This is another DOS prompt and command prompt.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't always know the lingo. It's good to, yeah, they'll call it different things. If you type in get map. I don't know how many of you have a system where when you log on for the first time, they want your MAC address. Okay. Like when you come in, they say, okay, we have a wireless system, or we have a system where in order for us to allow you on the network, you have to have your network ID and your password, and we want your MAC address. And your MAC address is actually your physical address for your Ethernet. So it's got, even it's not a Macintosh. Okay, so they'll ask you what it is. This is a really good way your tech person needs to say, oh, sure, I got my MAC address. So you sound very good. It's not something you're ever going to need unless you're like setting up a network or getting security. But it's just a handy-dandy little thing. The other little cool thing in there is system info. This takes a few minutes. This will take you more than you ever, tell you more than you ever want to know about your computer. But it's kind of interesting. Tells you like, you know, your hard drive, drivers, and all kinds of stuff. So it's just kind of a fun thing to do. Your chip tells you about your RAM. Okay, and now we have another thing that is kind of cool. If we just go back to the run command, you can type firewall.cpl. This is a little shortcut to get to the firewall. It's on Windows XP. It brings up this little window, and you'll notice that it's on. And in some cases, you'll want to turn it off. Now, when you're on a laptop, I would always have it on. There are a few things in your own network that possibly can conflict, and if you've got a good virus protection and you've got protection in your network, maybe it's okay to turn it off. The default is on. And then, Yes. Okay. Exceptions. This is kind of important. Like, if you're finding you're having trouble with printing and file sharing, you definitely want to have the file and printer sharing on, and you want to have remote assistance and remote desktop on if you want to enable, which we'll show you in a little bit, how to have someone help you remotely. If you've got a problem on your computer, you can email someone and they can actually go into your computer and fix it for you, and it's all done. So you have to have that enabled. If there's firewall blocking them out, they're not going to be able to get in.
Also, this checkbox right here, display notification Windows firewall blocks a program, that's defaulted. If you have a program like we have, a remote administrator program that's automatically blocked when we install it, when I try and access something, a pop-up box will come up and say, you know, Windows Firewall is blocking this program. Do you want to block it? Do you want to unblock it? You know, what do you want to do with it? So you can say, I'll block it for right now, or always unblock it because I know this is safe and I know it's okay. So you have that option.
Yeah, let's do Windows break. Windows break, another one of these handy-dandy Windows keys, gives you the system information, system properties window. This has a wealth of information. I shouldn't look at it. All right. Okay, you'll notice it has your Pentium chip. Okay, she's got a Pentium M. How fast it is, it's 1.6 gig. She's got 0.99 gigabytes of RAM, which means she has 999 megabytes of RAM. 999 megabytes of RAM, which is almost about a gig of RAM, which is a nice speedy little machine. And then if you look on the computer name, there's times when, I don't know about you, where your guys are, you need to know your computer name. Like if you're connecting to one or a printer, someone might say, what's your computer name? It's not always what you think it's going to be, because it can be named and put on your network, and not necessarily your name. So that's something someone might want to know. Automatic updates. Automatic updates. This is a big thing that when XP first starts up, it really likes you to do automatic updates. This is for updating Windows XP. It doesn't update your Office. So you remember all those critical updates when we've had issues with the past where it's like, if you didn't do this and there's all these big holes in the security. And okay, so what it does is we have found, and I don't know, it likes you to do the download the first load where you do them every day at 3 o'clock. We found we kind of like to do the second one, download them and let me know and I'll put them on, because we didn't want them rebooting in the middle of the night. If someone professor had left something on and was working on it, just walked away from this computer and it needed to do a restart, because we had a few issues with that. So we kind of like doing that second one. I'm sure Windows will like that. And then we'll notify you in the lower right-hand corner here, and it'll look like a little shield. Looks like a little gold shield. And that says, okay, you've got critical updates, we've downloaded them. Click them on, download them, and then restart at your own convenience. So that's something really important. And it's handy because it does all the work for you. You don't have to worry about waiting for them to download. They're all sitting there waiting for you. Okay.
And the new thing in XP is when you do install Windows updates, you know, you're there in the middle of the day, you see that little button that says, do you want to install something? You double click, you say, go ahead and download it and install it. And then at the end, sometimes it says, okay, you have to restart your computer now. If you say, no, I don't want to restart it, I'll start at the end of the day, you know, when I'm all done, a pop-up box is going to come up about every 5 or 10 minutes saying, do you want to restart now? No, I want to restart later.
This is convenient. It just popped up.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So that's what it looks like.
So
let's go look at actually show them what it looks like. See, it'll say, do you want to just go ahead and do it?
Yeah. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want that reminder every 5 minutes saying, do you want to restart? But if you do get to that point, you might as well just restart, or else that little bubble is going to drive you crazy. Another thing I want to show you on here, and we'll talk about it more later, but just so we're already here on the properties menu, is System Restore, which Terry talked about before. You have the ability to turn it off. And you may wonder, why in the world would you ever turn it off? Well, if you have a virus on your computer and you're doing a virus scan, you turn off System Restore if you have a virus, just so when your antivirus program takes it off, you don't go back, System Restore, and also put that virus back on your computer, forgetting that it was on there.
But the only bad thing.
Comment about that though?
Yeah.
Sometimes though, you can use the System Restore to remove the virus, because once you disable stable system restored, you lose all those
You
backgrounds.
lose them all.
Yeah.
So now you have to then recreate all those. So you, in a sense, lose your ultimate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the real problem with that. We ran into that too, and it's like, okay, this is like, what do we do? It's that sort of toss-up situation. Yeah. Although it's a really nice feature, I wish it would let us say, you know, get rid of them, but put it back on, or put on all, but this one, but doesn't want you to do that. Good point. Okay, now we're going to talk about a little, before you install Service Pack, Windows XP Service Pack 2, which I think a lot of people have heard a lot about. It's got a lot of security, it's a good thing to have on, but there are still issues. The big issue is make sure you have all your spyware off your machine. Your spyware, your malware. What we use at Pepperdine is Spybot Search and Destroy. It's a free download. We actually donate a little bit every year to them. You update it. We found it works really beautifully for us. Let's see, there's Adaware. That's another one. And I think we put on the handout, I put the Spybot site. You can actually download from their version of another site, but that's where it is. Adaware is another free one that works really well, but you don't want to put Service Pack 2 on when you've got other spyware on that can really foul up the installation.
And, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we ran into a problem with, we use Spybot as well. The thing we found is Spybot doesn't find everything. So we use a combination of Spybot, Adaware, and sometimes a couple others that are out there. Those are the two better ones, it seems. So sometimes you really need to run more than one. Otherwise, it just stays in there.
And one way to know whether you have spyware on your computer, you know, if you're like, I don't know if I have spyware on my computer, what does it do? Sometimes it'll take over your web browser. You know, you have my whole page from my Internet Explorer is Google. If you have spyware, sometimes what will happen is it'll also set your home page to another page, a random search page. Usually, you think, what is this? I've never set this before. It's a good chance that you have spyware on there. If all of a sudden you're getting a whole bunch of pop-ups on your computer, that's a good sign also. You're slowing down. I mean, it could be other issues too, but that's a good sign that you have spyware.
Another thing I recommend is updating your BIOS and updating different things in your computer. We suggest that you go to your manufacturer website and make sure you've got everything updated before you start doing XP. And also, we would highly recommend that you back up your data, just in case. We're going to go a little bit more of that in a minute, but you know, whenever you do something major to your system, back up your data, because ultimately it's your data. You know, and I think you should take ownership of it, so that when because it's your hard drives. It's not a matter of if your hard drive's going to crash; it's when. All of them fail eventually, so you want to always have backups for all your data. Okay, let's go to that site. There is a site that Microsoft puts out, and there's software that does not function with XP2, and they update it all the time. So these are some that she listed that were the kind of the biggies that a lot of people have. So you need to check that site. Again, we gave you that site on the handout, and there's a large list of software that is incompatible. So you may want to really check that before you let anybody put Service Pack 2 on your machine, or you're going to lose functionality on these. And it depends how important that is to you. So I wouldn't do that. Okay, let's talk about, we're going to talk about backing up your data.
We just had a professor at Pepperdine, you know, calls me up in the morning. My computer won't turn on. I think, okay, you know, press the power button, you know, Control-Delete, try and log on. And he's tried all of that. I went up there and it loaded up the BIOS. And then the BIOS is the very first thing that you see come up on your computer. It loaded that up, and also it was just a black screen, and it froze there for a second. And then it would say, can't find the hard drive. You know, press F1 to continue, F2 for setup, and you hear the hard drive just kind of whirring and then making a clicking sound. That's a really bad sign. Or sometimes you go on your computer and all of a sudden you see a blue screen, also known as a blue screen death. You know, that's a bad sign also. All these things, I mean, his computer, I take out the hard drive, did several things, can't get any data off of it. You know, you talk about data loss, data recovery. That's something we have to do. We're sending it on to a company so that they can take off all of the data. One thing he said to me as I took the computer, I was like, well, I should have backed up my data, huh? Yeah, if you had a recent backup, that would be great. His most recent backup was 8 months ago. Unfortunately, he's working on a huge article right now that's on that hard drive, and we're hoping to recover it. So, you know, our motto, back up, back up, back up, as often as you can. And these are several different ways that you can back up. You can back up to a CD. Let me talk about some of the pros and cons. We no longer really back up to floppy disks. Floppy disks hold, you know, just a small little portion of how much is on your hard drive right now. And floppy disks are they're not very reliable. You put them in a hot car for a little bit, it's gone, you know, gets a little bit of dust in it. You can't use it anymore. We say back up to a CD. Most new computers now have a CDR, just where you can record data onto your CD, you can burn data onto your CD. You can use a USB or flash drive, which is kind of what I have stuck here in my computer right now. Terry has the small one. Really small, you can get it in different sizes. I think the smallest is 16 megs, and the highest right now that I've seen is 4 gigabytes.
This is a 512, so it's pretty handy.
They're all about the same size, but, or physical size. They're pretty cheap right now. If your school doesn't give you one, I would say buy one. You can get a 1 gigabyte flash drive for about $70. So, and I carry it on my keychain all the time. I put Service Pack 2 on there because I'm always going to computers and installing Service Pack 2. So that's a way to do it. I'll show you how to back up something to your USB drive. To an external hard drive. I brought my external hard drive. I hook it up to my USB drive, and I have a backup copy of different things on here. To a network server, if your IT department has a network server, put data on there because they usually back up nightly or weekly, or there's some sort of backup schedule on their server.
On that external hard drive that you showed, I'd be curious to know the cost and also the dangers, you know, how much dropping, knocking. But I mean, can it, you know, kind of withstand the normal travel things, for instance? Or that looks pretty small to me. It doesn't look like there's a lot of padding or anything in there.
No, and actually the hard drive is in here. It's approximately this size. You know, it slips in here, which helps a little bit. It's a hard case.
Okay.
Just like with your laptop, you don't bang it up against something. You know, you try and be as careful as you can with it. When it's hooked up like this, you don't really want to pick it up and start jiggling it around. When it's off, you're pretty safe. It's still something you want to be careful with. You know, it has all your data. It's 2 disks kind of very close together. You don't want to, you know, bang it together or anything. But I would say it's pretty reliable.
These things are really durable.
Yeah, the USB drives are very durable. You can't put it in a hot car for very long. I would say treat it like you do your laptop. You know.
What about the wash?
When I say try it, tell me what happens.
That was my comment I was going to make. Our webmaster accidentally got the thing in his pocket when he put his jeans in the washer. Washed them, he dried them, and it worked.
Oh, wow.
But eventually something, you know, like, something was wrong, but it worked. Is that one of the flash drives you did that with?
Wow, wow. That's really that's amazing.
I would really recommend it, but we had somebody actually run over the flash drive in the car.
And it still works.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah, okay, so
Flash
the
drive
cost
then?
of this hard drive, this is a 40 gig hard drive, I believe, and it was about $40, $50.
It's cheap now compared to what it used to be.
Do you have a question?
7 times was with a SanDisk 256 meg flash drive through the wash.
That's amazing. Wow.
Experiment. I don't know if you want to do that experiment or not. Try.
I have dropped mine a lot, and it's fine because the little thing broke off. It's supposed to be on a keychain, so I always have to stick somewhere, and I'm always dropping it. Works really
I
well.
want to make a comment on this one. Another important option you might have added is to have an internal hard drive. Like the critical systems we use, we always buy with 2 separate physical hard drives.
Yeah, that's
and
neat.
it's much easier than any of these.
Where are you that you do that?
I'm actually from University of Manitoba, Canada.
Oh, okay. Because, yeah, I do. See, several of us have a second hard drive in ours, and we do the same thing, but all our machines don't come with that. So this is.
The only reason I would say put it on a different location is if your laptop gets stolen data back. You know, have it in a different location also. It's really nice to have that backup data just in case it gets corrupted, but if you lose your laptop, you want your data somewhere else. Another thing is to use Microsoft Backup, and that is just something that Microsoft has put together to help you easily back up your data. To get to it, you go to Start and All Programs, Accessories, and System Tools Backup. And what it does is it brings up a backup wizard. It allows you to back up files that you have on your computer and your settings. Settings mean how do you want your desktop to look? What is your registry like? What do you have in your start menu? Things like that. I'm just going to say let me choose what to back up because I don't want to back up everything on my computer. I just want the documents. I don't need all the Windows files and the program files. I go to My Documents, and I just click Check. I just check it right there. You know, and I say, where do I want to back it up to? This is my, this is not this, or my USB drive. So I just said Save, and Next. And then it just starts going in the background. What you can also do is set up a scheduled task. So this happens every day at 4 p.m., you know, or it happens every week, every month, whatever you think is okay. If you're okay with losing a month's worth of data, then that's fine. Do it every month, you know. It also has the ability to say, only back up the things, re-back up the things that I've changed. So you don't have to back up your whole hard drive over and over and over again. Just do whatever I modified, go ahead and back up that. And that's all I have for backing up data.
And where is that actually backing up to?
What I said was, I asked it to back it up to my USB drive. You can ask it to back up anywhere. It gives you an option, you know, you can back it up to a different location on your hard drive if you want, on a server, whatever. On a CD if you like.
Yeah, people are harking back to floppy drive. I don't know how many people have floppy disks. Probably not too many people anymore. You know, they held up a very tiny amount of information. And these things now, with 512, I mean, you're looking at 500 floppy disks. So it's like, you know, give you an idea. And of course, if you've got a DVD burner, I mean, we're talking gigs now that you can back up. So it's like she can have it sent to a flash drive. She doesn't have that much to back up. Whereas before, I mean, I don't know, you know, remember the days, I don't know, how many remember having, you know, this many to install Windows 3.1, you know, and then you box for one, or, you know, do a function and you're on disk 15, and it goes, I can't read it.
You know, another important thing for that is you back it up, great. Try to restore that backup. Make sure that backup works. You know, it's the exact same process. Start, all programs, accessories, just backup. And there's an option there to say restore backup. And just make sure that that works because it would be horrible for you guys to go through the whole process of backing up every day and then all of a sudden that backup doesn't work. So just test it every once in a while and make sure that it's all there.
In case you're wondering, I just wanted to, I went to the Windows E, just to show what the flash drive looks like when it loads up. It usually says something, removable disk, something odd like that. In case you're wondering, well, where the heck is it now that I put it in here and I want to do something? You could also get to this by clicking on my computer. So there's a couple ways just to make sure you're trying to figure out where your flash drive is. And it should show up, most of them show up there.
We had an interesting problem, people who had 2000 could find the removable drive, but those who had XP couldn't. And what it was doing was, we have a CD and a DVD, and it was looking for the very next drive, which we had mapped to our server. And so we had to remove the mapping for that, and then it showed up.
That's interesting.
So that could be interesting.
Yeah, good to share.
Why do you back up your whole hard drive? Because manufacturer doesn't give you the software anymore, or as opposed to just backing up files.
Oh, I'm sorry. When I say my whole hard drive, I'm just referring to your documents, which is generally all you'll want to back up. I had one professor that just wanted me to back up his whole hard drive because he saved things in such weird locations that I couldn't find everything. And so I had his whole hard drive. I just pulled everything off and put it onto a 250 gigabyte hard drive that he had. And just backed up everything that way so he could be sure not to lose anything.
It has happened though that some students will come in and their PC has crashed, and it does seem to be problematic sometimes. Reinstalling the operating system, I mean, they don't have it on CD, they don't have it anywhere. That's now standard operating practice, I take it. That the manufacturer doesn't give you that stuff.
No, they should.
Michelle?
So, Sony Bio makes you make the install discs yourself now. So if you use
Really?
Sony Bio, what you need to do is either pull out 2 DVDs and a CD, or
No, I think that's great. We have a lot of students come into our office, I never received a CD, or I don't know where it is. Well, they got a CD at the very beginning, you just don't know where it is now. Sometimes I think if you call the manufacturer, they'll kind of help you out.
IBM specifically, unless you specifically request the CDs from them, they don't send them. It's all on a mirrored hard drive partition.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But some manufacturers also
allow you to buy the restore CD if you don't
have
a copy in the paper.
They just lost their class action about those practices, so those are going to be changing.
So what does that mean? They'll have to
Actually,
give
Dell and
you?
HP, I think, were named in the
Yeah.
That's just recently. They lost a class action about the mirror and about the not providing the restore discs and things like that. So those practices are going to be changing.
Oh, good.
They should have.
I don't think Sony was named in that one, but the industry tends to take note nonetheless.
But I've had an opposite problem doing backups of only my files, and that's in missing things. There are so many programs that park your data files in places that you're not necessarily aware of, and you already mentioned one, and that's the PST file. If you lose your PST file for Outlook, you've lost your contacts, your calendar, all your saved email messages, and I forget now where it's. It seems every time Windows comes out, it's in a different place. Now it's under Documents and Settings and Desktop or wherever. And there are a lot of other smaller programs that will park data files in under Program Files, C drive program
like your
files.
PDA call files is in program files.
So not only do you lose your preferences, which can take an hour to reset in Word or WordPerfect or whatever, but you can lose actual database, data files, for instance, by not knowing where they're put on the darn computer.
Yeah. Another thing that some people don't know is that even if you do back up your whole hard drive, just because you backed up your whole program's file folder doesn't mean that you can just put it onto a different computer and all of a sudden that program is going to work. It means that maybe you have your backup call files, you have your backup Outlook files, but you have to reinstall the program on a different computer. So I don't know if that makes sense.
We've made quite a practice. We're a mandatory laptop school where at least a lot of our students have the same thing any given year, although not all of them. And like everybody else, we've got a certain fleet of uniform machine images for faculty and staff any given year, and so we have ghost images of most of that stuff, and one of the available on the server. One of the things that we've discovered is that when you have your threshold of giving up the ghost or giving up and ghost and re-imaging the machine as opposed to tinkering with some nagging little software problem, goes way down, and probably with good effect because simply backing up the data, if the machine can get to the data, re-ghosting and restoring the data seems to be the quickest way to deal with it. And we also update our ghost images periodically too, so you don't have to go back to what it looked like in September of 2004. And I would have never believed how much we would be doing that.
We must have a lot of really same machines. That's really nice because we have a zillion different kinds of machines, so we can't really do that in our lab. We do it, but not
I think we get about maybe a dozen.
Where are you from?
Richmond.
found that Knoppix helps with that a lot. Anytime a computer has any kind of problem or crashes, 9 times out of 10, if I need to save stuff, I just put a Knoppix CD in, drag everything off to a USB drive or a network drive. That's it.
What's a Knoppix CD?
You actually got one in your little bag.
Oh.
It boots a Linux operating system off of the CD and it doesn't harm the hard drive.
Okay.
Terry talked earlier about remote assistance and remote desktop and how somebody from your IT staff or somebody else you give access to can help you with your computer if something goes wrong with it. Remote assistance is the ability to email somebody. And say, I'm having a problem with this computer, help. You know, they'll get an email with a link to your computer or a link. They click that and they're able to connect to your computer as long as they have your password and authority to get onto your computer. They can get on there, fix whatever problem it is, disconnect from the computer, and you're all hopefully all set to go and it's all working. With remote assistance, you also have the ability to set a password. So, you know, you call the person up, this is the password. You should never email people passwords. It's, you know, call them and talk to the person and say, password is Terry. You know, go ahead and enter that password and try and access this email and the computer. Another function that we use is remote desktop connection. It's similar to my PC. So right now, obviously I'm not on campus, but I need to access a computer on campus or a program on campus. We have a server set up for us, and I can just connect to it from here. And it'll allow me to connect to that computer and use whatever programs I need to. I can get to our different servers that I need to, access different programs, things like that. As long as you have administrative rights to your computer, to both computers, you can access your computer at work, computer at home, whatever it is. You do need to be on a DSL cable, T1 connection. You can't do this on a modem connection. It's not going to work.
I think that's only for XP Professional. You can't do that with home.
You can't do that with home.
No.
Thank you.
Does that, if, like in case you're logging onto a server remotely, does that log off anybody else that can log on at the time, or is it just a second session?
Our server engineering department has set this up so many different people can log onto this server. On your own personal computer, only one person can be logged on at a time. And what the other person will see is also a blue screen popped up saying this computer has been locked. You know, enter in a username and password if you want to log on. If that person logs on over there, you're also locked out and you can't get on. So.
Using the modem, that's not necessarily true. It's slow, but I use my pocket PC to go to terminal services.
Actually, you can use the DNC also in Windows 2000.
Yeah. You can't use VNC. I believe there's a program that has to be installed on your computer.
Yeah, installed in the client and whatever.
That was a good point. Someone mentioned this is, we are talking about XP Professional, because we assume most of the law schools are going to be using that version. We use that version, not XP Home. There's quite a few things that you can't do on XP Home that you can do on XP Professional. So, okay, we're going to do a few more tricks and tips thing now. I don't know how many of you on the recycle bin. And it says, you want to empty it, it says, are you sure? If you don't want to ask it if you're sure, you can right-click it, go to Properties, and uncheck the Display Confirmation dialog. However, you know, part of me kind of likes having that there. You know, you're really sure you want to dump these files, but it's driving you crazy, you can get rid of it. There are so many little tips and tricks. I'm just hitting a few of them. If you go on a lot of those websites, there's a bunch of them. I don't know about you, if you've ever gone to your start menu and after a while you've been putting a lot of stuff on and it's no longer in alphabetical order. And that gets kind of annoying if you want to look at your programs. So if you go to start programs and you go, oh, you know, this is really kind of driving me nuts. You right-click on any entry, and you can choose sort by name. And then that will resort it in alphabetical order for you. And it should just keep it that way. So sometimes it's kind of handy-dandy. Another thing that I like is the full screen. And if you maximize it, you can see this is how big it is using your typical little thing. But if you go F11, if you notice how all of a sudden with F11 you see even more, and it's valuable. And when times you really want to see a bunch of text or pictures, or maybe you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, go back to maximize. See the difference? This is maximize, and then the F11. That's sometimes the handy little trick. Also, we can do the top vertical.
Similar taskbar buttons. I don't know if you noticed before. These three Windows Word documents were all just on top of each other, which helps save space in the taskbar. This one trick that Terry is showing you does not work if it's stacked on top of each other like that, if it's grouped. So I was just changing it so it's all side by side.
Okay, all right. You're gonna you can display two windows side by side on the desktop, and you click the Windows button on the taskbar, press and hold the Control key, and right-click the second window you want to open. File vertically. Sometimes it's handy. Or you file horizontally. I don't know why you want to file it. Sometimes you don't have something side by side. It's kind of neat. If you want to take stuff on and off the Start menu, you can pin and unpin items from the Start menu. Yeah, let's go to one we want to add. And if you click on, make sure you're in an icon, not in the folder. Your folder is not going to work, because you may have to have an individual program icon. And you right-click it, and you'll notice down there it says Pin to Start menu. That's going to put it right on the left-hand side there in your Start menu. Because sometimes there's stuff that you go into all the time and you go, you know, I don't like the stuff they have, I want my stuff there. And if you right-click on the Start menu, you can unpin. So you can put whatever you want up there. For some reason, you're using that a lot. Okay, if, I don't know how many of you at XP have had that little thing come up, this, oh, we have an error, do you want me to send this to Microsoft? And you sort of go, oh, like that's really going to do a lot of work if I send this to Microsoft. That drives me crazy. I don't like that little button. You can disable it. You go to the system properties. You can either use Windows Break or right-click My Computer. And on the Advanced tab, and down on the bottom right says Error Reporting. And you can make some changes here. You know, because quite frankly, I can't believe Microsoft is really going to look at those things. I mean, you know, maybe they do, but I would be shocked. So that's just kind of nothing to get rid of. It drives you crazy. Then we're going to show you a couple things that when we set up on our individual desktops before we send them out, it's something you may or may not want to do on your own that we found are just helpful, that do not come as a default when you install XP. And one of them is, let's go to IE. On Internet Explorer, if you go to Tools, and let's Internet Options, yes. One thing is, I think most of you know how to set your home page. That's right here. And then if you go to Settings, one thing that we always change, because the default is this huge cache. It's like, I don't know, 644 megabytes, or it's just enormous whenever I go on there. We set it down, we think, well, what's plenty? Because this is just caching all your temporary internet files. It slows down your system. There's no need for this stuff.
And you can send it to whatever you want.
Yeah.
Mine happens to be at one because I know I don't need a cache of all of my temporary files. You know, some people prefer to have it at 50, 100, whatever. But
folder and store temporary internet files outside the profile, which is something you guys might want to consider doing just to make the startup faster. Another thing that we do, let's do show the pop-up blocker stuff. This one. If you have Service Pack 2, you'll have pop-up blocker settings. And this is where you can make exceptions. And you'll notice that webmail on there. Notice we have webmail on there. That was because we had that problem with whenever we reply, we were using our web access on the mail, it would think it was blocking it. And so we had to make that an exception. You can just add whatever you want as an exception. And then the star is a wild card, meaning anything. And then on security, there's exceptions you can make on internet security too. Trusted sites. If you have trusted sites that you want to make sure the computer can always go to, we have a portal that we had some issues, so we would put, make the portal an exception on all at peppermint.edu, so it was never a problem on the internet. And then a couple other things that we always do is there's some, we like, I don't know, on the taskbar, properties. We like to go to show the taskbar, and I don't like it to hide and active icons. I don't like it. Now, some people like it, but they have that little arrow and things go back and forth. I like to see what's here, and you can change it by going over here. That's what I did there.
Show the quick launch.
Yeah.
Quick launch on these buttons right here allows you to, the little shortcut buttons. Whenever you go to something software.
I think those are really handy. I like those, but some people don't care. And if you'd like it to look like Windows 2000 instead of XP, you can customize it. Another thing I always like to do is I right-click to somewhere on the desktop and go to Properties, and this has all your screensaver, your desktop set up. On a screensaver, the one thing that I always like to go to is go to the power settings. And we don't like them to go into hibernation and turn off the hard drive. We've had problems with our laptops never recovering from being turned off. So like even our desktops, we just put off, because we don't like to have the monitor go off necessarily. We've got a screensaver. So that's something you may want to look at if you're having trouble with your computers hibernating too often, or some of your clients complaining about that. And obviously,
another thing you're able to do is, if you dock your computer or you turn off your computer a lot, you don't want it to go on standby. These are options that you have. Also, what happens when I close the lid? I don't want to do anything on the lid. Does it go?
On desktop, this is obviously where you can customize your desktop. And I usually go to customize and make sure that everything is selected or not selected. If you want to have, I usually will, for our faculty and staff, will select all. And I don't like that auto clean. I don't know about you guys, that customized desktop thing. I don't like that clean up the desktop thing. That drives me crazy. See the rest of the desktop clean. Just something I don't like. Settings. We have found.
Here.
Sorry.
Effects. This is defaulted fade effect, which is, I think, something that makes it just kind of look fancy when things come up.
We think it makes it look slower.
Yeah, it slows up just how things open, it kind of comes up a little slower, a little smoother. It's nice, just like that right there. If you don't have a lot of RAM in your computer, you might want to turn that off. That'll help a little bit. So for me, I just want to get where I'm going, so I turn it off.
You get a lot of people that ask for you to make the computer slower.
Maybe not on our own.
In '95, I was able to make directly from the start. You know what I mean? So that you could, so when you put your mouse over it, you would then open up into links to the directory. I never figured out how to do that. I never used 98. I couldn't figure out how to do it in 2000. I can't figure out
say directories, are you talking about like your favorites folder or just?
I believe that they're literally, if you look at the start menu structure in 95, that they were literal directories which you can put links. Which I think, so that when you move your mouse over, it open up, and I believe the structure of the start menu then, was a set of files and directories, and actually you put directories in, and those would open up the same way that run programs. Or when you put it over Office, and it opens up the windows and cells and so on.
Clicking on
I
start.
can do this in 95. I
You
can
know,
do it next year.
right there, and then you're able to click folder like the favorites is, and it would have a pop-out and show you stuff like, in our labs, we create a folder called shortcuts. Everything they can do is in there. They don't have to go through program files and go through another set of structures. So adding another folder there, it has a pop-out. If you set it to classic view, you can do it. When you take it off classic view, we have one way to add a folder to give us the pop-out. So we set everything to classic view.
There's a lot of functionality in regards to this one versus the classic, so we just use the classic.
You can put a shortcut on your desktop.
Yeah.
A folder, you don't have to open the start menu.
Right.
Yeah. That's one question too. Are you guys going to cover like changing the size of your viewable stuff? Because like right now, one of the problems we run into is we're deploying a bunch of new Dell computers, and they all have flat panels. And so people are going from looking at 800 by 600 to on most of them, like 1600 by 1200. It's very small compared to what a user is used to seeing. So there's a lot of functionality built into Windows XP that will make you make everything bigger, so that to them it doesn't look like all of a sudden things are small. Are you going to talk about that at all?
We can. I think this is what you mean.
Yeah, under appearance. Actually, for appearance, the bottom for font size, it says
You can
normal.
make it extra large.
If you say extra large, it'll blow
Make
the words up.
You know, we have a lot of flat panels, and I don't know that we set them that.
Well, the native resolution, if you don't use the native resolution, things look blurry. So it depends on the monitors and sizes that are coming out.
Windows tends to detect what the resolution capabilities are and set it accordingly.
Yeah, when you move it down, flat panels, it's not that native resolution, it's blurry. One of the other neat things is down on where your little shortcut menu is, or next to start menu, you can right click there, and you move up to, which is not on the icon, but just in the box. You have to maybe expand the box because you're getting all the icons.
Yeah, I'm having a glitch with this right now, so that's not an issue.
Anyway, if you right click in that box, you can choose view the very top, large icons or small icons, and all of a sudden those icons will be blue.
There is actually something.
What refresh rate are you using?
Well, on LCDs, there aren't. Most of them are just default. It's not like a CRT. CRT, you set the refresh rate higher so it doesn't hurt the user's eyes. But on flat panels, most of them are just a default. Some of them you can set to 75.
We used to do 60 or 75. I mean, I think I had mine set like 800 by 600. I have a 3-year-old Dell flat panel, and I don't know.
Some of the older flat panels don't have as much of an issue, but almost all the new flat panels that come out
Maybe that's fine.
are a very high resolution. So anyway, it's just kind of neat for the users, and so what we do too is we go into like Word, and instead of having it open at 100%, we set it open at 150%. So there's a lot of customizing that you can do with Windows XP, so if you get out there, you see your users and they're frustrated, because that's what happened to us. We started deploying these and everybody complaining. We then went back and started finding ways that Windows XP, like even Internet Explorer, because in Internet Explorer, when you're looking at a page that's set for 1024 by 768, you're looking at it by 600 by 1200, you have these bars on each side. So in there you can click on view, text size, and go to larger or largest. Now if the web server doesn't let you override it, then you're messed up, but Mozilla will let you actually override that. So you can do things to expand the views, which is something that I haven't seen much on the web. So
No, that's good as well.
We're actually out of time. We'll answer questions, but you guys need to go.